Hello again, this is Charlie Bellefontaine, and you're listening to the Home Buyers Hour on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And we're going to talk about the value of real estate professionals in the real estate business. In the studio with me, I got Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law. Patrick, tell us a little bit about your company, please, and give me a short why are you valuable. Sorry.
Well, let's just say my mom says I'm special.
We'll leave it at that.
And she's a real estate agent.
So she knows. There it is.
Come on. About my business, I am Loftus Law. Oh, I'm Patrick Loftus, and I am with Loftus Law. I mean, I sort of am Loftus Law. It's just us. Me? Too much coffee.
No, that's all good. We'll leave it to you. But,
I'm gonna keep drinking more coffee too, so it's not gonna get better.
And one of the things is when you call the office and we'll get that number out there, they talk to you, right?
100%.
That's a big deal to me. All right.
I would hope so. And if someone doesn't find value in talking to the lawyer as opposed to the lawyer's assistant or their paralegal, well, then maybe you make a different choice as far as your lawyer, but I would question that choice.
I couldn't agree more. And also in the studio with me is going to be Olin Eargle. And I'm going to go on record. You know, as much as I like all of our other guests, Olin's one of my favorite real estate agents. So we're going to be bringing him on the show a little more regularly than other people. But Olin, of Olin Sells Chicago, and, you know, I don't know, I just think you're very valuable. But tell me more about your business, your company, and a quick rundown of what makes you unique, please.
Sure, and I love you too, Uncle Charlie. Olin Eargle.
They're gonna believe that, all right? In today's politics world, they're gonna believe that stuff. You believe anything.
That's a love term of Uncle Charlie, not a family term. Olin Eargle. I'm with At Properties. I run a small team of agents, like Patrick just said, where when you call me, you get me or one of my guys. And it's not a massive team, but we like to keep it more boutique. I've been with the company with At for about 13 years now, and I've been selling real estate and loving it in Chicago. And the reason I'm valuable, or at least the reason I perceive myself as that, is I'm actually an implant to Chicago from South Carolina, and I've built my business and made a name for myself. And I look at real estate in a different way because I'm a newbie to the city, and I really like to explain things in detail to people as opposed to just being something that's just ingrained in your body, people who've lived here for a while, and I get to look at it from a different perspective. And that's what I love about this business, and it's different every day.
You know, I think that's a really important thing you just brought up. My wife is from another country, as a matter of fact, and let's just say that the things that she doesn't take for granted that I am fully prepared to take for granted are that list is long. And I'm saying that that's probably something that I wish was a little bit different about me. And, you know, that's one of the many reasons I love her, is that she's able to show me some things right under my nose that I'm missing, the beauty and not just about Chicago, but yeah, I'm suggesting that having that not outsider's perspective, but the perspective of someone that doesn't feel like most of the stuff that's great about this place is part of the wallpaper.
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely value to that.
Yeah, I think we end up taking a lot of things for granted too, you know, is the way I see it.
I had never been to the Bean until like a year and a half ago.
Isn't that amazing? A lifelong Chicago resident, same here. And you realize what a beautiful city this really is, and everything that it has to see.
And I live downtown. It's not like I couldn't have swung by there and just been like, hey, check this Bean out.
When did they put this thing in?
Yeah. Exactly.
And it looks like a cloud. Why did they call it a bean? I don't know, but yeah, we'll go from there. And Joey's always remote. Joey Matthews of the Federal Savings Bank. Give us a little bit of a rundown on you, Joey, please.
Yeah, so Joey Matthews, the Federal Savings Bank, like you just said, NMLS 1330694. I mean, for me, I've never considered myself special. I've always considered myself very okay, but I am very okay at keeping everyone completely informed. I think one of the biggest things that happens on the lending side is a lack of communication. And I see this just because I also manage a team of 20 bankers, and things will come up where I'm like, well, has this been communicated with the parties yet? They're like, well, no, I wanted to talk to you. I'm like, no, you don't want to talk to me. Talk to them. You need to talk to them. Like, it's I don't know. It's just so important. I think communication is number one in our industry, and I say that real estate attorney, realtor, lender, like all of us need to be able to talk. Like the job is a lot easier than some people make it seem, and it's that way because people talk to each other. So I guess that's the piece I like to consider myself pretty okay at, is talking to people.
And when you talk about talking to like the real estate agent or the attorney, you know, and I don't really talk to many of the other players. Every now and then I'll get a request from an attorney. I don't think I've ever gotten a request from a mortgage broker at all. Real estate agents will call me for clarification. That does happen. But how do you keep the client? I mean, we don't go behind people's back and I hope, you guys tell me, we don't go ahead and make plans behind the client's back, do we? I mean, they're involved in all of these things, these conversations?
It would be rare, in my opinion, that the client wouldn't be involved in. I mean, let's face it, they're the one whose decision it is, you know, for most things. If I were to need to communicate directly with the agent, I mean, I think that on occasion I would need to communicate directly with the agent just so that, you know, we're on the same page. Are you perceiving this situation similar as in the same way that I am, or there's some kind of strategic imperative that I want to impress upon them as far as, you know, when you talk to the other agent, here's the angle that we're working so that we're all working in concert with each other. But that's all, generally speaking, going to be with the client's blessing.
Okay, yeah. And what sort of examples do you have, either one of you three?
Well, I was just going to say, in tandem to what Patrick just said, as small as this might seem, whenever the introductory email goes out from an attorney or a mortgage lender and copies everybody, myself, the other agent, the client, the simplest and easiest thing to make sure everybody's happy is when it starts with, hey, team. And then that makes sure everybody knows that we're in this together. And I love that because sometimes there are those one-on-one conversations where the client just calls me to ask something, or if myself and the attorney are talking. But when everybody's brought together on that initial email and it's, hey, team, here's what I need, here's next steps, to me, as a buyer, that would make me feel super, super confident. Okay. And it makes me also feel confident knowing that I have this team behind me of all these other professionals working together for the same end goal. I just love the way that feels. And sometimes, you know, please copy this person, please copy that person gets crazy on email. I'm sure we all deal with that. But at the same time, I do like that it brings people together.
Yeah, I would say one of my pet peeves is if I send an email out and it's to the other lawyer, CC each of the agents and, you know, whomever else, BCC the client so that they can be made aware of the progress. And then the reply comes back just to me, and I see there's no CCs. I'm just like, let me. Now I've got, and then when my response goes out, I've got to add the CCs in, and the BCC is going to get added in anyway. But it's like, you know, I don't know whether there's just no thought involved. I think, you know, I can think of a number of good reasons, but my pessimistic viewpoint is they've not considered that there are other people involved. That at least need to know what's up.
Yeah. I feel like I have conversations a lot in that same respect of, oh, I didn't see that email, or I wasn't copied on that. So therefore I'm calling the lender, I'm calling the attorney. The other agent is calling me, hey, where's this? And I'm like, well, I was copied on that email 2 days ago. Were you not? So it's some of those simple things that we've been doing this for a while, but I think people forget, and it puts everybody in a bad position where you don't look like, you know what, you know, if your client asks you a question and you're aware, but your attorney isn't, or vice versa. It's nice to keep everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and not for nothing, the 7.0 contract says explicitly that the agents are to be involved in the communication. I mean, there's no, I think, more important expression of that being important than it literally being in writing in the agreement the parties signed.
Yep.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And Joey, what about you? How do you feel that, like, what sort of items do you have to communicate with either Olin or Patrick if you guys are working on a deal together? Because you never talk to me.
Well, I think right off the I talk to you every week.
Nice comeback.
I think the biggest thing is for lenders up front, the most important piece of communication can be with the list agent once a offer has gone in, right? There's so many of us in this industry, and I mean that number is going to be a lot less when the year turns, just because of where the market's gone. But if I know an offer is going in, I like to make sure my pre-approval is updated. I like to call the list agent, so I want them to get the call from me, because eventually they would want to call me anyway. So I want to call them before they even have a chance to think about calling me. So I can talk about why the offer they just got from my client is the one that they need to get the sellers to accept. And I'm not saying get them, no, I just literally said get them to accept, but why they need to impress upon the sellers why that offer is so solid. Because I do everything up front. When my first underwrite comes out, I want the list agent to know the only thing I'm going to be waiting for: title appraisal, possibly homeowners insurance. That's it, right? It's just incredibly important for lenders to do so much work up front that once it's under contract, it's just smooth sailing waiting for an appraisal, really. Because title, typically nothing comes up. Maybe there's a delay on a seller payoff, and that's it. And then obviously during the process, I like to make weekly phone calls. On Mondays, I'll call my clients along with my buying agent. On Tuesdays, after I've talked to the buying side, I'll call the attorneys and the selling side, so they can have an update on the file. Like, hey, yeah, we're still just waiting on appraisal, waiting on title, whatever,
Joey,
just so I can be very clear.
I'm sorry to step on you there, but I'm itching to talk. No, but there was literally a thread on the Illinois Real Estate Lawyers, the ISBA listserv, a couple weeks ago, and the question was, how do you advise a client on which offer in a multiple offer situation is the stronger offer? And it just, when you were saying you will literally call the sales side to sell, not to sell, well, to sell, let's just say it.
It's selling my work.
Yeah, to sell that offer, to take it one step farther than to just fill in the mortgage contingency paragraph. Yeah. I would, I don't have any data to support what I'm about to say, but I'm confident in saying that probably got the deal done for, one or more of your clients.
Well, what do you tell them though? I mean, what would you, if you call an agent, how are you going to make your client more important, or is this a top secret thing that you don't want to share publicly?
So no, well, there's certain information about clients that you can't share publicly because of the consumer's right to financial protection or financial privacy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Right. So there's certain things like the nitty gritty details. I can't share those. What I can share is, they have great debt ratios. They have fantastic assets. They have a steady income job. I can't really say, self-employed or W-2 employee, but I can say steady income, no concerns there. I have credit. I have my automated underwriting findings. I have everything that I could possibly need to get this done. If it's a VA loan, I've already pulled the certificate of eligibility. No hiccups there, right? As long as they're confident and I can impress upon them what I've already done to make sure that this offer, in my eye, and I've said it before, in my eyes, I want to underwrite a file in my head before it ever sees an underwriter's desk. Right?
Now, I get that part, and I'm going to interrupt you just a little bit. How do you get that into your clients' heads? How do you get that into the real estate agents' heads? This is, you said, I heard a number earlier. Was it 22 people on your team?
It's 20 something. I can't give you the exact number, but I know it's 20 something for sure.
All right. And when you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but every loan that you've written, none of them, got bounced at the underwriter table because of something that was missed or a T that wasn't crossed or an I. Is that a fair statement?
I've never had a loan denied.
Is that you or your whole team?
My whole team, and the reason
That's
that
impressive.
I do that, I don't hire mortgage people that have experience. I like to hire people that are completely blank slates, because then I can teach them to be as crazy as I am, right? I think that's incredibly important because if I hire people who are already in the industry, I hate saying this, but there's a reason that they're trying to move from another company. They think the grass is greener on the other side. They're bringing bad habits from their last place or whatever. I like fresh people that I can train to be good at what they're doing rather than people who throw poo poo at a wall and hope something sticks.
I couldn't agree
Right?
more. I do the
So,
same thing. When I'm out there recruiting, the number one thing I'm looking for is somebody that has passion for helping other human beings. And as far as the experience, the knowledge, and everything else that they're going to need to do our job as a home inspector properly, that I can get them. You know, it might not happen overnight. It might take time, but I can put that knowledge in their heads as long as they have the passion to help other people. And Olin, you're the same thing, aren't you? You're hiring team members, right?
100%. I agree because both people on my team started out in the hospitality industry, as did I. And I feel like that's such a great background.
so did I.
Yeah, it's a great background for real estate professionals. And my brand is offering concierge level HOUSEpitality. That's a thing that I've been living by and working by for years because I like to make sure. And Joey, like you just said, if somebody comes from a different company, there's a reason they're leaving that company or a reason they're looking for a new opportunity, and they're going to bring those experiences with them. And both of the people on my team started out fresh as baby real estate agents, and now they've grown into fantastic professionals. And not that I've groomed them to be like me, but I've had the experiences and been able to give them the good, bad, and ugly, and they kind of see that, and we all work together seamlessly. So, Charlie, you hear me say that all the time. Concierge level HOUSEpitality.
I do.
We all come from this hospitality background where we want to make sure everybody's taken care of, handheld, questions answered, etc.
Or at least give them the answers that people are asking for. Let them be treated as a human being that is going through a process and that somebody cares about them. And again, it goes back to my key word is always going to be value. And what value do I bring to the table? And then I challenge myself on doing this is how do I express to Patrick here why I'm valuable? How do I tell you, Olin, why I'm valuable? And I like to always turn that on you guys. How do you tell somebody else that you're valuable and you're worthy? I know it's a hard question, right? I should have given you a little more time to prepare this, but I'm a jerk. Let's get that out in the open.
Well,
all right.
You know, look, you're not going to be able to have an expectation that someone's going to take on board, you know, what your view is of yourself. I mean, the number one thing is how do they perceive me? Okay, am I communicating effectively? What are the words that I'm using? You know, that's stuff that I don't necessarily have to come up with in terms of an elevator sales pitch. You know, I say, look, you hire me if you don't want to get taken advantage of when you're buying or selling a home. And from there, we can start to have a conversation about what is it that we're going to be doing together. Some people will like that, and they will say, yeah, you're my guy.
You're fit.
And some people will say, I got to talk to my wife, and I will probably not hear from them, and that's okay. I'm not. My expectation is not to have every single real estate buyer and seller hire me. Not only is that unrealistic and not an attainable goal, it's not one that is worth aspiring to. I think it's the better approach is to have people that you feel a synergy with, and that is going to be more satisfying for everybody involved when it's all said and done. And those are relationships that maintain, you know, over the course of an entire career, rather than just singular transactional sorts of relationships.
You know, it's funny. I when I first met Olin, it was through a magazine called Real Producers. Patrick and I both advertised in that stuff. Olin was featured in there, and he was one of the first people that I met. He talked me into joining this group called Business Networking International, or BNI, and I did. And the biggest thing I've learned is that relationship building in there, and that 3-step process that they push in the, what's it called, Olin? The beginning education that every member has to do?
The member success, yeah, MSP.
MSP, the Member Success Program. And they talk about, you know, getting to know you, and then you have to get somebody to like you, and then you have to give them to trust you. And I've always, I looked at that and I'm like, okay, get to know me. Well, don't I have to know myself first? And before I could explain it?
It's a scary question.
It is a scary question. Who am I? And that's like one of the hardest things to do. I mean, Joey, how do you recruit or do they just get hired and they're assigned to you when you talk about having 20 people on your team or plus?
I recruit. I've had bankers assigned, and it hasn't gone well when that happens.
Yeah.
But those are people who are coming over from what's called the consumer direct side. That's the phone mashers. That I'm not. I don't do that.
I don't know what that means.
Referral-based business,
like cold calls or
cold calling.
Leads.
Okay.
Cold call. They buy leads. They buy leads, right? I've never bought a lead in my life, and I never would. So I've had bankers that get transitioned from the consumer direct model to my model, and it's just so different, and it's impossible because I run into a lot more poo-poo at a wall type people, which drives me nuts. But on my end, I do recruit. It's really the frontline team thing that I created at the bank. So a lot of my bankers are first responders, military veterans, all that good stuff. I'm a Marine veteran myself, and I just quit tired from Cicero Fire Department.
Oh, that's
December.
a horrible phrase. You stop that. Quit tired. I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm not getting a pension, so I quit tired. But because of that, I've had a lot of people that have reached out to me like, hey, and I'll do mortgages, but I also have other people that are intrigued by how I made that transition and the steps that I took. And I'll have conversations with them. I'll start gauging kind of their knowledge, their background, things of that nature. And if I think that there might be something there, then I'll ask them for a resume and be like, hey, this is something you want to check out. Let's talk about it, have a deeper conversation. And if it's a fit, it's a fit. It's a great thing. And yeah, that's really how I've built the team so far. It's fun though.
That's interesting. And then Olin, what about you? Same thing. Are the people that you said you recruited, I'm assuming, that were in the hospitality business, did you know them through that? And then you say, hey, you know what? Your attitude, your behavior, your everything, this is a good fit for you. Maybe you should consider it. Is that how you approach them, or what do you do?
No. I mean, I did an interview process, if you will, but they actually both came to me. There was a third person. He's now moved to a different company, so I've hired 3 people over the years. They all knew me, knew my business, or were referred to me. In particular, one of these people, I sing with her best friend. And she had said, I'm getting my real estate license. I'm looking at jumping into the business. And her best friend said, oh, well, this guy that I sing with is a big broker. You should give him a call. So she actually called me, and then we did the interview process. So it's on the opposite side of the recruitment. But I still did the same process where I spoke with them and wanted to figure out, what she was looking for, what her style of real estate is, how she wants to help people. Both of my team members also own their own house, and I think that's a great benefit to having walked the walk, and they've been through that process before.
Okay.
And so, we have all those deep conversations, and let me go back and say, I don't think that it's a negative if you haven't, but they've walked that walk before, and they know what it's like, and so they can speak to that and use it as a personal example. So I interviewed both of these individuals and was able to bring them on as team members, and then I've been training them over the past couple years. So it's not as much recruitment as it is training. And I'm very lucky that At Properties also provides a fantastic amount of training just internally as well. So outside of me being the team lead and working with both of these guys, they get in-depth training at my company as well. So I'm really lucky in that respect. And they're both doing fantastic, and they're both loving this business and showing their hospitality roots through it.
I like that you keep saying that, hospitality. Olin, if people want to get hold of you, how do they do that?
So 312-771-1328 is my cell, text, or call. My email is Olin, Olin, @atproperties. And on Instagram and all other social media, Olin Sells Chicago.
I love it. And Joey, how do they get hold of you, please?
Yep, Joey Matthews, 630-235-2405. Call or text anytime. Find me on the social medias, Joey W. Matthews, unless it's TikTok, where I am. Mortgages are fun.
Which still cracks me up every single day. Patrick, how do they get hold of you, please?
Yeah, the at properties domain name is a bit of a tongue twister, isn't
Yep.
it?
Yeah.
I've had to spell that out a couple times.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of spelling it out, last name Loftus. You would not believe how people can either not spell it.
Even I can
Can't-
spell that one. I mean, I'm not a good speller at all. So
I'm telling you, I don't know.
it's not like Bellefontaine common spelling.
Right? Yeah. The French spelling. Okay. 773-632-8330. That's I'm an iPhone person. That's my iPhone. You can text it, and you can call it too. That's fine too.
Sounds good. And my name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors, and it's plural. It's an ORS, and it's a .com. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. Please feel free, whether you're a client or not, a real estate agent, attorney, anything that anybody wants to talk about, defects of issues going on in their home or something that you saw when you're buying, or you want to start putting price tags at things. I never charge to talk to people on the phone. And, listening to what you guys were saying here, I was hearing a few backstories and a few history things and how people become who they are today, right? And so Joey was in the Marines. He was also a fireman, and he retired. Olin, I hear your story on the HOUSEpitality, and you want everybody on your team with experience. But, Patrick, we really don't know your, background story. So what brought you into law? And I know your parents are kind of in the profession, but give us more details, please.
Yeah. So what brought me to law? How far back do I go? Okay, so as a graduation present from high school, my mom took me to Washington, D.C., and
That's a cool place.
I really enjoy Washington, D.C. So I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to study political science in undergrad or bioengineering. Looking back, the fact that I was even considering bioengineering is hilarious. But,
I love it.
But those were the two choices. But that trip to D.C., I was just entranced by the whole... it's this place that you've only seen in school books and in pictures and on TV, and all of a sudden it's right there. It really, and seeing the actual Constitution, that kind of sealed the deal.
That's pretty cool.
I know, and it seems a little nerdy, but yeah, I mean, so.
I was moved by the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial. I don't know why I was, but that one was amazing.
Yeah, it was emotional for me, and I decided to study political science at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Shout out to the ranked football team.
I love it. ILL.
I. It's like Marco Polo. You cannot leave an ILL without an INI.
Absolutely.
So my freshman year. Had no idea what a political science major does after they finish their degree. It occurred to me that probably lawyer is one of the main ones that they would do. So I said, I think I'm going to go to law school. So I did. Didn't really have any sense of what kind of lawyer I wanted to be. I wasn't one of these people that went to law school thinking, I'm going to be a prosecutor, or I'm going to do... I'm going to work for ACLU or whatever, and work for a big law firm. I think once I got the degree, got the law license, I kind of just gravitated toward real estate. It occurred to me as I was doing various things. Family law was not for me, for all the reasons that you probably assume.
Yeah, I'm the most prejudiced person against family law attorneys. I know we're looking for one in our BNI group and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh no, there's no way in hell I'm going to try and find someone to bring in our group. Not that.
I know a couple that aren't out and outright just absolute horrid people, but those are a little hard to find.
And I don't like talking bad. I know there's good humans and bad humans everywhere, and I'm the victim of being prejudicial. So
I will be the first one to trash talk other lawyers because. Well, I'm sure we will tease that out as we go on. But
you know what's good and bad, and I think that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. How does, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's kind of the subject that I wanted to go after was how does a consumer, how do our listeners on this Saturday morning, how do our listeners are able to tell if a real estate agent is a true professional? They have their client's best interest. An attorney is there to just not get the dollars, but to make sure that their clients are well served. And same thing with the mortgage, same thing with the home inspector. How do we do that?
Well, I'll tell you from my side of things, I've not been a consumer of a real estate lawyer for obvious reasons. But I can tell you from the perspective of the real estate lawyer, I started out in law as a general practitioner. The good part of that was it gave me exposure to a lot of different areas of law. And so I was able to figure out what suited me and what didn't. And it turned out real estate is the one that really, got my attention. And
why did it get your attention?
Well, it seemed to me that people were a lot happier at a closing table than they were in a courtroom.
I could buy that, Dave. I could buy into that.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I'd love to be one of these lawyers that is mostly at closing tables.
A positive situation instead of a negative one.
It's one of the few areas of law where, by and large, both sides end up walking away satisfied with the result.
I
won't
that.
say happy, because the happy is so subjective, but satisfied with the result. They got the result they were looking for. They got what they needed out of the process. It wasn't, I went to court and a judge ordered me to do something. So that led me in the direction of real estate. Now, why does that connect up with the question you asked? It's because the longer I have been focused on primarily real estate, the more I realize I'm able to get into the really, really deep details, the complexities of things. I'm not just kind of dabbling here and dabbling there. If your attention is drawn from real estate to a criminal matter to an estate planning sort of thing, those are three things that you have to remain an expert at. I mean, that is what the expectation is that I'm going to be. I guess I'm not supposed to use the word expert. We can
Why
talk
not?
about. Well,
Why is that such a bad thing? Why is everybody so afraid of being an expert?
Well, I'm not.
You took a lot of time to know what you know.
Right. I'm not. It has more to do with sort of the more mundane rules about how lawyers are allowed to promote themselves.
Okay.
You're not necessarily. I guess expert. I can say I'm not supposed to say I have a specialty unless I have some sort of credential that backs that up. So yeah, it's. I'm not gonna, the ARDC is not going to come after me for saying I'm an expert in real estate law.
And who is the ARDC? I'm sorry.
The ARDC is, well, you have the IDPFR.
That's our state regulators, yeah.
ARDC, it's not a government regulator. Lawyers are allowed, we've been given the privilege of regulating ourselves.
Okay.
And that's because the ARDC is more than happy to get after you if you've done bad.
And we learned last week, I was actually surprised a bit of that, but the Illinois Realtors and the local real estate boards, they also govern themselves as well. They do discipline themselves. That I wasn't aware of.
Yeah,
I don't know if you were, Olin.
There's another layer. The realtors have their own, like, I think it's canon or code of ethics that they're expected above and beyond the bare minimum that is required in the Licensing Act.
Because I always read the IDPR disciplinary reports, but I don't necessarily read any of the other association ones coming in there. And Olin, I want to throw the same thing at you. Why did you decide for real estate? I mean, you're an interesting person that you didn't really broadcast on here, but you just kind of mentioned it lightly. You said you're a singer, all right? But you also do acting.
Yeah, so I did not think I was going to get into real estate. It's interesting how it happened, but I was a criminal justice major in college. So
all right.
I was in North Carolina, and I thought that I wanted to work in I would have loved to have worked in the criminal justice field, but they had a statute in North Carolina that in order to be in private investigation that you must be an on-the-field police officer for 4 years as a prereq. And that changed my mind immediately, so I decided to walk away from that. I just didn't want to do police work for 4 years. I wanted to jump directly into investigation. So, have my cake and eat it too, but they didn't allow for that. So I immediately changed to communication advertising and had an advertising and marketing degree, when I moved to Chicago and I worked for Oprah. That was what actually brought me to Chicago, was to work at Harpo. And I was at Harpo for 2 years, and on my own decided that that really wasn't where I wanted to be. I saw myself doing something different, and I didn't have a lot of growth opportunity there. And somebody that I was dating at the time was in real estate and suggested that since I had, in high school and in college, I had a side job as a leasing agent. So since I already had a history there, that was a suggestion to me. So I decided to do that in Chicago, and I'm so glad that I did, because this city has provided me with so many amazing opportunities, and I was able to start out in the leasing field, get my license, and kind of just fell into it. But Charlie, I think the story you're alluding to is the fact that when I look back, I was that 5 and 6-year-old playing with Legos and building houses. Then my dad and I built our own house together, and I was able to help with the floor planning. Then when I was in college, I was an RA. So all these things that have to do with housing were ingrained in me, but I didn't know it. And I've always loved real estate, and I've always loved architecture. And I just had this brain of going into criminal investigation that didn't work out. So real estate kind of fell into my lap, but it's really what I love, and it's the passion I have. And I still think about those things that kind of led me to where I'm at today. And my college didn't offer a real estate program, so I had a marketing background. But all three of you guys know that you can throw a rock and hit a realtor here in Chicago. So
80,000.
What makes us stand apart is our personality, is the culture we bring, is the dedication that we put into these clients. And that's what I'm so proud of, is that like I said earlier, I am an implant to Chicago, and I've learned what it's like to come into this transient city and make a name for yourself. But also, it's my home. It's where I was married. It's where I've built my business, and I can help other people attain those same goals because I've been through it. And it just brings a smile to my face every day, and I love what I do. And so I think about the fact that I'm a realtor. Like, I am a realtor. That is my profession. That is what I chose to do. And like Patrick said, I could easily say yes to a commercial client or say yes to a rental. Those are different kinds of real estate that I do not practice. I focus on residential because it's what I know, and it's what I'm good at. Like, he's not going to do family law or estate planning. We have the ability to do these things, but I would rather be a consummate professional at what I do, at what I love, and give my clients the best service.
And I think that's the part that really says it the best when you said things that I love. Basically, my son, obviously he's in his 20s. He's my oldest, and the kids are going up there. One of the hardest things I see these people doing as they're going through college is I got to decide now, when I'm 18 years old to 22 years old, I have to decide what I'm going to do for the rest of my life in this 4-year period, where my mom did all my laundry and now I got to do my own laundry. I got enough problems already, let alone figure out what I'm going to do in the future. But once you find that passion, and that's what I was trying to explain to them, whatever you do, as long as you like what you choose to do, you're going to do it well, and you're going to make a lot of money. All right? The money just happens to come. All right? So that may not be 100% true for everybody else, but I know it was for me. And Joey, you're another one. You were, how long were you in the Marines?
I did 3 active, 3 reserve. So
3
6
active,
there, and then
3
2 years
reserve.
in active ready reserve. Yep.
And then on the fire department, how long were you there?
Just short of 10 years.
10 years. All right. And with that, though, and how long have you been doing loan originating? Is that the right phrase?
8 years. Yeah, call it. Yeah, for sure. Loan originating 8 years, and I actually did it as well while I was in the Marines for a year, and then I went to Iraq, wrote 2 loans while I was in Iraq, and realized, oh my God, I am putting way too much stress on myself in a combat zone. So yeah.
I'm sorry.
Gave it up real
Right now, I
quick.
got my hands in the air. Like, what the hell are you
Right.
doing?
Yeah, what's the time difference there?
Yeah,
What time
right.
are you up?
Can I call you
sending
tomorrow?
And I mean,
No,
is there a gun
oh
on
my
your
gosh.
back, or are you still, aiming something
Yeah.
and then typing on the iPhone? What's going on?
Right.
I mean,
No, it was
Yeah.
wild.
defending and texting. I don't know. There should be laws against that. We can't even drive and text. But why did you decide this? I mean, you're good at it. I know you're good at it. Whenever you can get 20 plus people to follow you and buy into the way you do things and your beliefs, you're good at something. So why this?
So, yeah, why mortgage stuff, right? The way I got into it was actually a buddy of mine, also from the Marines. His sister was an originator. He got out. She got him into the industry, and then quickly after he got in, he was like, "Oh my God, Joey, you do amazing at this." So I had never really given it a thought. Same with like firefighting. It's the same way I got into firefighting. I never gave it a thought. I tested once. I got hired. Right.
I
With
hate
originating,
you.
I
I
know.
think I had a
I
test
know.
like 6 times before I got on high enough to get hired.
I planned on being a cop my whole life, and then I became a firefighter. So with the originating, my buddy got me into it. And I did work in a call center, which is why I didn't like the consumer direct model, because I saw what we were doing. Wasn't a fan of it, but at the same time, it got my feet wet. And I was helping people, and this was still in a subprime market, right? I felt like I was helping people, and that's what felt good to me, right? It's the intrinsic value that it brings to you. I mean, extrinsically rewarding for sure all day, right?
Yeah.
Intrinsically, though, I have to feel good about what I'm doing. I mean, felt great about being a Marine, felt great about being a firefighter, and this is just an extension of that. I still feel like I'm serving, right? So
We're nerds, Joey.
That's
We're all nerds.
Yeah.
All right. Honestly,
Yeah,
they should be making
absolutely.
a movie about us, and I forgot all the name of the characters in that, but it's like, Booger and all those guys on that show. Yeah, I don't know.
You're going way back with
God.
that one.
I am. I'm an old
Yeah, you
guy.
are.
I've been in the fireman business for 37 years. I said it before, and it's funny that you say that about the passion. I've done some really cool things, and one of the best questions I get is, so is this Chicago Fire TV show real? I'm like, absolutely, it's real. I
So
can tell
real.
you, it really is. Everything that's happened in one episode probably has transpired in my 37-year career. We got drama in the firehouse, and I've done some pretty cool things. I've been able to rappel off of buildings. I've delivered 5 babies. I did jug sticks. It is a wow. It's a pretty cool thing.
Well, you were saying earlier about me doing acting. When I was on Chicago PD, they had real police officers come in as the like to give their advice.
They do that in Chicago Fire as well.
So
and they
you're
even
not
put 'em in
learning
there.
from another acting coach, for instance. It's a real police officer saying, "This is how you hold the gun. This is how you do all these." It's real life training for actors. Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying a lot of that stuff is real. They take the stories that have happened over 20 years in a firehouse, and then we'll use those 6 items, and that'll be this episode. I'm like, wait a minute, it doesn't all happen in one, in an hour or an hour and a half. It takes 30 plus years for that to go on there.
I'd just like to point out that I don't feel the same way about Law and Order.
No, well, a lot of that is a little bit different. What about the criminal intent one?
If you want to know what being a lawyer is more like, watch Better Call Saul. Don't watch Law and Order.
All right, I'm going to be all over that one now.
It's a great show.
But but getting to where I was going with my babbling, it was when we finish with our home inspection, and our client looks at us and they look me right in the eye and they say thank you, and they shake my hand with their right hand and they hand me a check with their left hand. That's rewarding, and I keep trying to explain this to other people that are coming into our profession, that buying a home is shelter. That's one of our basic needs that we need to do, but yet it's also the biggest pride thing than any human being. I mean, home ownership in the United States of America, and I'm waving my flag again, it's one of the biggest dreams that we have, and yet people can get harmed financially and physically if us here on this program right now, if we don't do our jobs.
Well, Charlie, I've said before, your role in the transaction is, for the amount of time that you spend, it probably is the most important aspect of the transaction in terms of making sure the person knows what they're getting themselves into, because you just don't know until the inspector gets in there, and it changes every transaction. The trajectory changes in some way based on the inspection, and it can't be overstated how important that part of it is.
I agree.
And I appreciate that, and I'm very thankful for that. And yes, I am going to still be argumentative because that's who I am, all right? The problem is, though, is such an important part that you guys have said. Right now, to be a home inspector, it's 60 hours of YouTube video watching, and then you follow somebody like me around on 5 inspections, and you get 70% on a multiple choice test, and now you're in that position helping somebody. And there's too many of us, and Olin, I hope you're going to agree with me because you deal with other home inspectors as well. Tell me there's people that you recognize issues and they don't, and vice versa. They recognize an issue, then all of a sudden it's, this crack in the drywall and the house is going to fall down.
You asked earlier about what makes working with vendors so important in our business, and it's for that exact reason. And like Patrick said earlier, I'm not shying away from calling people out. I've been doing this long enough, and I don't want to upset people and burn bridges. But there are lenders and there are attorneys and there are inspectors that I've worked with before that I won't work with again.
Why?
I will not refer my clients to them.
Share a story, please.
Well,
and I don't care who you target.
No, that's fine. On the inspection side, I'll also say,
Right.
For the second time only in my career, and I'm happy to say it's only the second time, I had a client call me last week and say that they made a mistake, and they've only been in their house for 6 months and they're ready to sell it. And the reason for it is because the inspection did not uncover, and just a disclaimer, this was not Chicago Home Inspection.
Even if it was,
But
I'm okay with making a mistake.
It's fine. I wouldn't want to call you out, but it was not. It was another company. But did not uncover all of the issues. The seller also hid a lot of the issues to the point that our attorney threatened legal action on them. And they've uncovered so many more since then, now that we're getting into the winter coming up shortly, that they're just ready to sell and be done with it. And it makes me incredibly sad. It's a friend of mine, it's a family that's growing, and now they're ready to leave their home that they've been in for less than a year, and it just hurts my heart. But for that reason, that inspection went bad. They did not like that professional. They did not see a lot of the things on the report that ended up happening in their home. And that's just one example of how you have to really, really vet these people that you work with. And I think I've done a really good job of that over the years. I have a pretty extensive vendor list that literally calls attention to the 3 or 4 main people that you need to work with when you're first starting this transaction.
All right.
And then after you've moved into your property, then I have A to Z, everybody that you might need, hardwood floors and window coverings and dog walkers and et cetera, et cetera. But the main people that you need to work with, attorney, lender, and inspector at the top, I have vetted professionals that I've worked with for years that I've had great experiences with. And those are the people that I try to continue referring to that are going to bring value to my clients.
Okay.
Yeah,
I could buy in it. And jump in what he was saying. Does his friend have any recourse? They moved into a house they feel, and I'm not trying to discredit anything, Olin, but they feel that somebody either hid things from them or the inspector should have caught something that whether they should or shouldn't have. What sort of recourse does that person have?
It's a really tough situation. I have a friend who's going through like almost exactly the same situation with a home that they bought, I think summer of 2020. And they're, this was going to be like the forever home. And he's just like, he's already like sunk 70 grand into it, and it's only going to get worse, not better. So not to duck your question, I'll get to it. What Olin said, he's got this list of vetted professionals, and what I've said before, and I'll repeat myself, that a real estate transaction typically will go as smoothly as the least competent person involved, and that's why Olin has this list, because if I'm involved and Olin's involved, but the buyer selected their cousin who just got into the mortgage lending business, Olin and I are going to be tugging that thing along, and it's going to take a lot more of our bandwidth than we would like it to. Whereas if they would have hired Joey, for example, I can just let him do his job, and I'm not worried about it. Now, to actually answer your question, the recourse, it's a difficult one. So there's the real estate, the real property disclosure report. And that's the thing that you check all the boxes on.
Yeah, everybody puts out, I don't know anything, and I lived here for 12 months.
Right.
I'm sorry, that was sarcastic and snarky, and I get it, and I meant it.
Once in a blue moon, you'll get someone that actually says something. In fact, I got a contract in yesterday where it's like, yeah, we get a little water in the basement. Better to get that out of the way at that point, because if they hire you, Charlie, they're gonna find out that there's evidence of recent water damage, and it's gonna be a problem. Anyway, so get it out of the way, so the inspector, when they point it out.
But if they hire somebody that doesn't have thermal imaging, moisture meters, because there's no requirement, then maybe they won't see that.
Well, yeah, that's, again, why it's important to...
And there's a lot of defects that just don't present themselves.
Well, there's not much you can do about that. So I'll try to boil this down.
Yeah, because we are running short. So
I'm a lawyer, so I got a lot of words to use, but I'll try to do my best to boil it down.
I love you.
Okay, so the bottom line is 99% of the time it's a caveat emptor situation. Caveat emptor meaning buyer beware.
Okay.
Whatever is missed, whatever manifests itself after closing, you're probably going to be wearing it. And I know that's not what you want your lawyer to tell you.
I want my lawyer to tell me the truth.
Well,
and if
yeah.
that's the truth, that's what I want to hear.
And that's
It's just not the answer you're always looking for.
Well,
yeah.
I got that too. Yeah.
Olin said it better than I just did. I don't always have the answer you're hoping for. There are causes of action, meaning lawsuits, that can flow from that real property disclosure. I usually try to talk people out of it. It has to, at the end of the day, the litigation that you might consider getting involved with has to be over an amount of money that makes hiring a lawyer economically feasible. So if it's a $10,000 problem, that's going to be the retainer that you give the lawyer, and they will try to recover under the Real Property Disclosure Act attorney fees, but it's not guaranteed, which is why they're not going to handle that case on a contingency. So you are going to be putting money out there on the line. There's common law fraud. Ultimately,
and that's not cheap. Attorney fees are not cheap by any means.
No, they are not. And the biggest obstacle that you are going to have to overcome is proving that someone lied to you on purpose.
And they had knowledge.
Well,
same thing, I guess, right?
I'm trying to use as much lay language as possible, rather than state the elements of a fraud lawsuit. But proving someone's state of mind is almost always very difficult, because they're not going to come out and tell you what they were really thinking.
Okay.
So you have to use extrinsic evidence, meaning evidence that's not something someone said. It's hard. So it's a gamble, and it's usually not one that is likely to pay off. So yeah, you're usually going to end up wearing that thing.
All right, and Olin, I know there's good and bad agents out there. If you were to give anybody any advice right now about, what questions should they ask in order to find somebody that, I don't know what even the right word would be, somebody that they could trust or is going to do the right thing at the right time?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. I mean, everybody's going to have a cousin or a friend or somebody who gets their license.
That's not the best person for
exactly.
you, though.
I mean, let that person be your friend and invite them to your housewarming. But if you're going to buy a property, which is likely one of your biggest ever, interview that person. Ask how long they've been in the business. Ask the kind of questions that you would want to be asked if you were being hired. That's what I like to tell people, is just you have the power as the buyer or the seller to determine who you want to represent you.
All right, we need to go around the horn. We are running out of time right now. I want to give thanks to Devin Tingle. He's our producer. And I always like to give a shout out to my favorite father-in-law. He's my only father-in-law, Bernie. But if you guys, real quick, please, Olin, give us your contact information again.
Sure. Olin with @properties, 312-771-1328, and on social media, Olin Sells Chicago.
Joey, if you don't mind, give us your contact.
Yeah, Joey Matthews, 630-235-2405. Joey W. Matthews, or if you're on TikTok, mortgages are fun.
And my favorite attorney, I just smile so much I can't even talk after you say that. My favorite attorney, Patrick, how do they get hold of you, please?
Shout out to my biggest fan, my wife, Anna. Love you, baby. Email me, patrick@loftus.law.
And this is Charlie Bellefontaine. Thank you for listening, and I am out.